Alright, so today I'm going to be showing you guys my favorite setups for Warzone 2. So of course you got your very standard RPK. This is what I've been running with it. This thing is an absolute beam. You know, very standard stuff. Been using the X12 akimbos, but normally I want to run my SMG secondary. Small indie companies, if you get specs bugged. But let's talk about the things that aren't inherently meta. So this build on the Raw has become something I'm actually choosing a lot over the RPK. I use the Schlager 3.4 for this bad boy, but you can move down to the aim up V4, or the I actually personally prefer this over the aim up, but that's me. As you can see, if you have that 1X, the SRO or the aim up V4, this thing just does not move. I'm literally just holding left click. I'm not controlling this recoil at all. And another alternative SMG you can look at, this build for the Icarus, goes kind of hard. Very high velocity rounds, very important. This one kicks a little more, but it's got a faster fire rate, and you can absolutely just annihilate people. Let's looking into this. I've been testing this just because I'm curious if I can make it work. The TAC M, I'm liking this thing. Fries. This is the build if you want to use it. We got the Akimbo Deagles. This is a cast-off 74U secondary. I find myself using a lot, and as you can see, like, this thing is an absolute laser beam. You got the 45 round mag. You're still very mobile. Good ADS time. And we're going to talk about something that I think could eclipse the RPK here. Is this setup for the second? You got a 100 round mag. You're definitely a lot slower than the RPK, but good God, does this thing absolutely just laser beam. Looking at the build, we go for a lot of recoil, range, and accuracy mods here. I personally just think like suppressors are way too valuable to not have, especially going into Season 2. We're going to have to look at what they do for weapon balance changes. But I have to assume the RPK is going to get nerfed, and the Fennec is going to get toned down, right? Because, you know, this is your very standard Fennec build that I've been running. A little different from a lot of what other people are running, but this thing is just a beam. Like, I'm not controlling the recoil there at all. I'll show you what you can do even at those, like, 25 meters. Like, you can still do that if someone's trying to have a gunfight with you. 25 meters, you got a little bit of wobble. Not the end of the world. And then something I have worked with is this one right here. This M13B. Definitely not. Is it going to let me do it? No, it's not. Of course, why would it? There we go. You got the M13B here. 60 round mag on this bad boy. And this thing is an absolute laser beam. Like, now keep in mind, all of these builds I am showing you are... I'm a mouse and keyboard player. I don't know how this translates to roller. But I feel like a lot of these are solid builds no matter what input you're using. And then, like, in anticipation of the nerf to the Fennec, I've been looking at other SMG options here. And if you want another fast secondary, you can rip the Lockman Sub or the VAD, and the VAD's never very, very good. But I actually think one that's super slept on is if you look at the FSS Hurricane here. So if you hit the demo Quicksilver stock, FSS OLV laser, and then you're gonna hit, you're gonna go with the Sin Guard, and you're gonna go with the Phantom Grip, and then you can use, where is it? The FSS Shark Fin. One of the better underbarrel attachments for SMGs because it can give you some recoil. but you're not actually giving up any ADS speed unlike a lot of the other grips. This thing absolutely hits. You got a good fire rate, a little wild on the recoil. This isn't the main one I was looking at. There's a couple options. I think the Lockman sub is going to become the new #1, but I think either of these, the P90 or the Hurricane, with their high base mag count, I think could definitely be something you look at. Like, let's try and build out a P90 here really quick. Let's go with the light rail here. And we're going to hit the VLK laser, the FTAC series here. And then we're going to use the FTAC Castle Comp, and then move to the cone. We're going to hit the recoil steadiness. Oh, no, sorry, not this one. I wanted this one here. As you can see, if you tune this for this and this, again, I'm not like fine-tuning these. These are just like kind of me ballparking, like what can I do with these. You build this thing out with some recoil. You can throw some ADS speed. You can go damage range if you want, but that's not really what SMGs are for. You can see your hip fire is pretty good with this build. Got good ADS time. Absolute laser beam. You got the high base. I think that's one of these things that the Hurricane and the P90 definitely have a lot of potential due to their high base mag count of 50. Whereas like a lot of other SMGs you're going to run, you have to use an attachment slot on upping your magazine size, because having 30 in a lot of them just feels like a little underwhelming for the way Warzone plays right now. Maybe that's just me. So that's another one you could look at. This is the build if you want. You saw me tune it. One thing I also I was honestly looking at is we're looking at the mini back. This is another one of those super high base mag weapons. You look at this maybe. We're gonna hit you with the Lacerda. It's got the FSOL EV laser, True Tac grip. We're gonna hit the Marquis stock here. So we hit the recoil, gun kick, go recoil, and I think damage range is actually a pretty big deal on this bad boy here. Go ADS speed and then walking speed, recoil, sprint to fire. So as you can see, the stats look pretty mean right now. If you go into this, you can see this thing, not the fastest time to kill with any SMG, but it's just got such a high magazine count that you can play really fast and loose, pre-firing a lot of angles when you walk into buildings. It's got a pretty decent effective range. I'd say its effective range probably lies somewhere around 30 meters. The 50 is a little bit of a little hard. I'm not controlling much. I'm just kind of showing you what the gun plays like naturally. Like if I just let it go, you see it does got a bit of a pull upwards. But I think these high base count mags would definitely be something to play around with. But I think because these ones have base high mags, they're intentionally tuned down a little. But I mean, like if we're just talking like looking at this one, right? This is the fast MP5 I built out. Let's tune this a little bit better. So you got a little less mobility, but this thing absolutely beams. Pretty solid weapon. There's a couple variations I've tried of this Lockman sub here. You've got this one here, it's pretty solid. And then there's the one that's a lot slower. It's almost like you would use it maybe as some form of sniper support. A little slower, but God, is this thing a beam. Like, I'm not even controlling that recoil. And like, you could, if you really wanted to, I like the slimline. You can move to the Cronin Mini Pro, you can move to the AMO PvP4 if you really wanted to, like. This thing is just, this is a very flexible weapon. You can build it out in a lot of different ways. But I think assuming this weapon doesn't get touched and the Fennec does, it probably becomes the Lockman sub meta. And one thing I've been running with sniper support is I'm looking at the MX9. This is probably, at a base level, the best like long range SMG. And you can almost build it out to function like a pseudo AR, right? Throw the AMO PP4 on this bitch. Hit the bullet velocity, hit your recoil, your damage range. 32 round mag if you so please. As you can see, this thing is an absolute beam. And I think it's something that a lot of people are sleeping on as like a sniper support. The only problem, right, is that snipers are kind of few and far between. And if I was to drop this, I'd probably hit into the Stip 40, because you take no penalties towards your ADS time, but it does give you sprint to fire and recoil. So as you can see, if I slap that on there, you can see this thing just absolutely lasers. Definitely something that I think people are sleeping on as like some form of like a sniper support. Maybe when we see snipers become a little bit more meta, or if you want to run like a marksman rifle, this is probably a very good weapon to play. Because if you're, especially if you have a super long-range sniper built there, it can get kind of awkward to use at those mid-range fights. And this is one of those SMGs. You could use a 7.4U2 or like a certain M4 build, but this thing's got the base mobility of an SMG. You got good aim walking speed. Your sprint to fire is pretty goddamn fucking fast for the way this is built out to function at range. This thing is just an absolute beam, and I think it is one of the most slept on guns in Warzone right now. And I'm going to show you guys something that I have been running like crazy, right? In multiplayer, so on and so forth. This Bryson build, you know my multiplayer builds in here, but you can turn the Bryson into an absolute demon of a hip-fire gun, right? So if we're going to scroll down, what you actually want to do is you're going to take that Bryson choke over the improved. You're going to go for the point G3P. And then what I actually do to try and you can get some speed back is you go for the X50 tac pump. So what you're going to do for your tuning is, I'm not going to do anything crazy. You sprint to fire. You're going to tune for hip recoil, hip accuracy. You turn tighter pellet spread, damage range, recoil, damage range. And then you have this monstrosity right here. Look at this hip fire. Like, it's crazy how effective this hip fire is. You got the fast rechamber speed from the guard. And if you want a little more accuracy in exchange for a little bit of speed, you can go with the VX Pineapple undergrip. The precision lock grip is just, like you see, ADS is not great. Your recoil is not crazy either, and I actually think because of the way I built this out, you're just looking at this, it's better to use this thing hipfire. ADSing with this thing is not the play. You can see you can pump people with this thing, like this thing hits. I ain't even gonna lie to you, you know I'm gonna flex a little bit, hit the Orion camo right here. And just, you look at the hipfire spread, right? This thing is like, even if you're moving, right? Like I'll show you, I'll hit a moving shot when this close to me respawns. And you can still pump pretty quick, and of course you can't one-shot with shotguns in Warzone, so you need the 2-pump anyway, and that's why I think the rechamber speed is very important. If you're going to run a shotgun, which I know is kind of like taboo nowadays, but it's just one of those things that I think could like catch people off guard. They walk into a building, they're pushing you, your team's down, and you just hit them with a double pump from this thing, like boom, boom, and they're just gone. Even this thing is like, you got decent sprint speed and you can jump, and you obviously lose quite a bit of accuracy, but you jump, right? Boom. You're still gonna one pump. Hit the 2-pump in Warzone, especially I think with the with sprinting while plating coming back in season 2, you're gonna look at this gun as something that you can just like, it's that pull out in the back. And if they still have that system where if your bag is big enough, you can carry a third weapon. This could be like a little fucking jack in the pocket. You know what I'm saying? This thing hits, and I think everyone should look at it. Another little fun build you can do with the Bryson 890 is a little different. It's a speedy build. You want to push someone, you know they're hiding close. What you're going to do is you're going to grab your guard, you're going to take the X50, you're going to take the sawed off, you're going to take the VLK, and then this is important. You want a little bit more stability, so what you're going to do is you're going to look for the phase 3 or the lock grip. So I personally think either of these ones is a great choice, but if I had to take one, for me, what I'd be doing is be doing this, take a little optic. Maybe a Cronin Mini Pro is great for the shotguns. You can see the speed at which this ADS is. Very much is like super fast and aggressive shotgun. If you want to get even dicier with it, you go for a 5 shell, make you go even faster. Right? Another one that could like do something, but I think the best shotgun in the game is the Bryson 800, and it's really not close. Of course, if you were, you know, you want to do a little bit of styling, there's a shotgun SAB build that I'm sure anybody who's played the multiplayer is very familiar with. You go fast as fuck here. You look at this one, right? Where is it? You go for the carbon barrel. You're gonna hit the Spectre mod. You want that re-chamber speed. You're gonna go for the Schlager match grip, and you're gonna go for the FSSO LED laser. So even without tuning, like you can see, this thing has got speed. You can with the carbon barrel over the 9-inch. You still got that reliable damage at that 25-meter range. This is a very much an up close and personal form of the SAB, and if you're feeling like maybe I need something a little different, you can hit up this one right here with the FTAC EZX. Gives you a little more control over the gun, and it doesn't really sacrifice too much mobility. And if you're feeling real spicy with it, what you could actually do is hit the Spectre mod, drop your Schlager, and go to the 5-round mag. Got some real speed there, but I think the 10-round base mag is just very valuable to have. As you can see, you kind of run out of shots. You can do that, but if I had to take one look here, right? The Edge 47 is alright, but I have to say this is my favorite build right here. You tune that shit for some speed. And if you're feeling that when they're in fights, this thing is kicking really hard, you can switch it up, hit that. And if you're still having some problems, you can drop this, or sorry, you keep this, you drop your stockless mod, right? And you go into muzzle, you look at the TYLR8 muzzle. You hit that thing for gun kick and ADS speed. You still pretty fast. With the rechambering accuracy, you do lose a bit of fire rate, which I think is pretty detrimental because of how fast fights play out in Warzone. But if you're feeling like you want to take it a little slower with this thing, like take your shot back around the corner, hit a reset, they push, or you swing after them, you know what I mean? So this is something that could, if you're feeling a little spicy. And then let's talk about probably one of the worst guns in the game. That I think could go crazy if they decide to buff it in Season 2. Now I think this gun at mid-range can do some damage. It's pretty ass right now. But I am anticipating buffs for this weapon, so I almost think people should start getting comfortable with it, you know? Because I think one of the biggest issues with the M16 is, yeah, the recoil is a little jumpy, yada yada yada, right? But I think the thing that they need to buff about this thing is the damage, and if it gets a buff, like I think it's going to, you put some high velocity on that, you get yourself aim OP, take your Choreo Pressio, hit your aiming stability for support C90, right? Because you want to stay steady with this bad boy. This is without tuning to the damage range too, right? Like you look at this, you go recoil, bullet velocity, you hit this, you hit damage range and bullet velocity. You're going to hit this ADS speed, aiming stability. You're going to go boom, you're going to go boom. And if this thing gets the buffs I think it's going to get, it could become very good. If it gets just like a slight damage buff on the burst fire. I know a lot of people are having flashbacks to the Warzone 1 M16 AUG burst meta. But you know, I think this thing could hit. So I think you should get comfortable with it now. Maybe test out the build I'm rocking right here. All of these actually barrels lower your damage range, which is not something you want to look at with the M16. So this is the build I've been running to try and get comfortable using it in multiplayer solos. I think this thing could go crazy, right? Now let's talk about something that I know isn't slept on, but the Kastov 7.62, right? This thing fries. And you know, after some testing, I actually think you're going to want high velocity on this bad boy. Tuned for damage range, bullet velocity. A little bit high on the recoil, not really if you know what you're doing. For comparison, I'll throw on the quotation marks meta optic. We'll throw that MOP V4 on this bad boy. You can see this thing's a bit of a laser beam, but it's definitely slept on. Don't think it's going to get a buff, but could be something that you take as like a mid-range AR in the following patches. And then there's something I've actually been taking that I think is pretty good almost. So what you do is your ARRPK build. So we take the inspect on this thing. You can see the ADS speed is pretty snappy. You're frying with this bad boy, right? I think this is kind of lit, and if you're feeling like this is maybe still a little too slow for you, that's alright, because I got a faster one. You get the shorter barrel, a couple different attachments, right? A little shakier on the recoil, but still fries. So you take this, take the RPK, we're going to go into the ARRPK. This is the one that I personally think is definitely better, right? And if you really want to get spicy with it, you can do this. Take your high velocity rounds, hit the recoil, and you could be looking at something beautiful, right? But I just think the barrel is very high value. And I think this thing can definitely catch some people off guard. RPK's got very high base damage. And if I had to guess, they're probably going to nerf the damage on the RPK. But this is something I've actually been running. I'll buy my main RPK at the buy station, and then I'll actually run this as my secondary. Pick up muni boxes whenever possible. And you're rocking double RPKs, you get your standard, you know, long range beamer build with the high velo rounds. And this thing just fries. As you're like close range, you've got good speed, your ADS rips. You got that, still got that high damage on the RPK bullets in that close range fight. You're losing some damage range, but that's not what this is for. This thing is slept on, I'm telling you right here. This RPK, insane secondary. I run the double RPK loading, and it kind of fries. Alright, well, that's everything today, guys. Thank you for watching.